What is up, guys? Today I want to start with a what is up guys intro because I want to talk about a video game. I want to talk about Final Fantasy 15, The Dawn of the Future novel. The novel that has all the cancelled DLC ideas kind of put into one complete package. So instead of playing it, you can just read what the intended true ending, air quotes, was going to be. Alright, so the prerequisites for understanding this video are going to be like a job application. You're going to need at least a minimum of 3 years of Final Fantasy 15 experience. You're going to need to have watched the Kingsglaive movie, the 4 Brotherhood episodes, the extra episode art, not the DLC, the anime, and then you have to have played the full game and played through all the DLC. Achieving the alternate endings as well as the canon endings, but the alternate endings are now considered the true canon. Alright, let's talk about it. Alright, so at the end of episode Arden, you have an option to choose a separate ending where you kind of resist your fate, because as it turns out, Bahamut is the big bad, and Bahamut's been pulling the strings from behind the scenes this whole time. So all of that Arden suffering, all that stuff, he's just a tragic victim of circumstance where Bahamut has been kind of manipulating him so that he will suffer. Why is Bahamut doing this? It's kind of hand-waved later on. So let me explain. Let's get to that point. So let's start with episode Arnea, because that was supposed to come out next. And in episode Arnea, they were kind of building it up in episode Prompto when they were talking about the diamond weapon. The diamond weapon is this thing that they showed in Kingsglaive. It's got these massive pauldrons, and we're supposed to get this epic fight between Arnea and this big diamond weapon. But the main takeaway from episode Arnea, plot-wise, is that Arnea discovers the daughter of the king of Niflheim, and then she trains her up to be a demon slayer. This will be important later because it pretty much guarantees peace once everyone survives between the kingdom of Lucis and the kingdom of Niflheim, because they're going to be, working together. That way, hypothetically speaking, if say a war were to happen and they had to set aside their differences to fight in this war and come together in the aftermath, hypothetically speaking, of course, if they were to win, it'd be much easier to rebuild both kingdoms without a second conflict. Also, in episode Arnea, we had a few key characters die. Not that it's really that important, because I'm pretty sure you have no idea who these people are. Kudos to you if you do remember them, though. From there, we start going into endgame territory with episode Luna Freya. So episode Luna Freya, as the name implies, features Luna Freya. But you're like, wait a second, she died. How can she come back to life? You can't do that. Well, essentially, Bahamut retcons the lore by bringing Luna Freya back to life and then giving her the Arden powers, where she can now absorb the Star Scourge and then save people who have been turned into demons. From there, Luna Freya meets up with the daughter, or rather the granddaughter, of the king of Niflheim, where they then meet up, they come together. She's like your second party member, you'll fight it out, and eventually you'll reach Arnea, who's been slowly being demonified. Luna Freya then rescues Arnea by absorbing the Star Scourge from her, and then when she falls asleep, Luna apparently gets a dream vision from Gentiana. Gentiana's like, look, Bahamut is evil, and he's going to use you as the new fall guy because Arden doesn't want to be the new fall guy. Because remember, in this universe, in this timeline, Arden refuses his destiny and decides to grow so powerful that the true king cannot defeat him. So the only way Bahamut is able to fulfill the original plan is by having a new Arden take current Arden's place. Hopefully that wasn't that confusing, because we're going to start hitting plot hole territory in 3, 2, 1, let's talk about episode Noctis. So episode Noctis is supposed to open up with Noctis being able to see the dreams of all the stuff that he missed out. So essentially what was going to happen was they were going to explain to him the whole past with, Somnus and Arden. It was going to show him the past of like what happened between Ifrit and the other gods, like all the backstory, all the lore that we know as people who have seen Kingsglaive and seen all those extra bits of content and have read bits of the lore. All that stuff would be shown to Noctis at this point, so he's armed with all the knowledge of the viewer. That way Noctis equals you, the viewer, if you had been keeping up to date at this point. So that way there would be no, irony coming from the fact that maybe Noctis doesn't know anything, or maybe he knows something. The only information Noctis is missing is the information that you, the viewer, wouldn't know. And that, of course, is the information that happens between Noctis going into the crystal and him coming out of the crystal. So he just doesn't know what happened between those 10 years. But before that, he knows pretty much all that happened, all that went down between Somnus, and all that went down between Arden. That way, Noctis can forgive Arden later on. This will be important. Upon waking up, Noctis meets Umbra. Is one of the two dogs. He meets one of the two dogs, and the dogs give him a letter. He reads the letter like before, and in this part, Luna explains to him all that has happened between the 10 years that he's been asleep. So he knows all about Luna's plan to kind of beat Bahamut at his own game. So from here, everything plays out normal. He gets on the boat. He goes all the way to the dock. He meets up with not the kid. In fact, he meets up with the daughter of the king of Niflheim. That way, you have kind of a soul bonding moment between the two heirs to the throne. That way, essentially, if they say were to find peace, they would have some common ground to build upon. From there, Noctis, after dropping her off, runs into a star-scourged version of Somnus, and after defeating Somnus, he notices that Somnus looks just like him, which prompts him to wonder, is that why Arden hates me so much? Is it because I look like the guy that betrayed him? And then he's off to his way to Insomnia. Meanwhile, at the plot, Luna Freya is talking to Arden, and she's like, look, come on, dude, Bahamut's gonna play us both. Let's just work together and defeat Bahamut. And Arden's like, no, you have to beat me in a boss fight first. But if you remember, in this timeline, we didn't fight Ifrit. So how do we get rid of Ifrit? So Arden summons Ifrit, and then Luna absorbs the Star Scourge from Ifrit, thus saving Ifrit from Arden's control. And before Ifrit can bring down some punishment on the guy that's been controlling him, Luna's like, look, let's form a pact, go back and help Noctis by becoming a summon. And he's like, alright, fine. And then right before Noctis shows up, Bahamut shows up first and says, look, this story makes no sense. I'm going to kill everyone. So he forces Luna to cast Terra Flare. He's forcing Luna to destroy everyone in her demon form. She gets turned into a demon because she's absorbed so much Star Scourge like Arden. Enter Noctis into scene A. So Noctis is now here, and then he says, I'm gonna go save Luna, but then he needs to fight Arden in a boss fight. And upon defeating Arden, he doesn't kill Arden, which is important because Arden now respects him as a true king because Noctis spared his life, and Noctis knows how bad Arden had it, so they kind of bond over the fight or something, and he forgives Arden. The important part is he forgives Arden, Arden forgives him, and they work together to save Luna, who has been turned into a demon by Bahamut because she absorbed too much Star Scourge, and Bahamut is still out there somewhere manipulating the strings. And then Arden talks to Noctis and says, look, we need to beat Bahamut, but the only way we can do that is if we kill him in the dream world thing, in that other realm he's in, and in the physical realm. And since I'm a chill guy, I'm going to fulfill your destiny, which was supposed to be my destiny, which is kind of poetic in a way. And he does the thing Noctis does at the end of the original game, where he goes into the crystal and then defeats, well, Arden, except for now it's Arden who goes into the crystal to defeat Bahamut. He meets up with Somnus, and then they, make up, and they're like, Somnus is like, look, come on, man, like, it wasn't my fault. Bahamut was manipulating me. He set me up, okay? He set you up. Please forgive me. And Arden and him join forces to defeat Bahamut. Meanwhile, in the physical plane, they rescue Luna. Luna stops casting Terra Flare. They then meet up with all the Astrals, and our main character, Noctis, and the rest of the boys come together to land one decisive blow on Bahamut, who then dies, and he's like, no, my great plan, my 4D chess plan has been foiled. From there, you get an epilogue where Noctis gets married with Luna Freya. This is all good. He talks to the name of the daughter of the king of Niflheim. They kind of bridge the gap between the two nations. He becomes a great king, and they lived happily ever after. Alright, that was a lot to take in, so I'm going to try and recap that recap. So in summary, Arden refuses Bahamut's destiny plan, so Arden goes off to do his own thing, which just so happens to be kind of like the thing he was going to do in the base game anyway, by spreading darkness everywhere, except for this time he's going to grow so strong that Noctis, the chosen king, cannot defeat him and thus fulfill his destiny. At this point, Bahamut's like, damn, my plan is going to go to shit, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring back Luna Freya. Luna Freya is going to be the new Arden, but then Luna Freya is like, haha, I knew you were actually going to play me, Bahamut. So Luna tries to get Arden to help them. Arden's like, no, but eventually he goes, yes, and then together they join forces and defeat a greater evil known as Bahamut, and then after that, everyone lives happily ever after scene. Alright, I want to talk about my thoughts of the Dawn of the Future DLC thing, canceled the book. I want to talk about this new canon story ending thing. So I want to tell you the way I played this game. So I first played Final Fantasy 15 back when it came out. I got the Platinum Trophy. I actually really enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty fun. The gameplay was kind of but the story, the bros, everything else, like the window dressing, the music, like everything that wasn't the gameplay was pretty well delivered. The story was probably one of the weaker parts, but if you take into account the anime and the movie and you absorb all that other extraneous media, It's actually a pretty good story with some major slash minor pacing issues in the main game. From there, my plan was to wait for some kind of Game of the Year edition that would bundle all the DLC, and then I would just buy that and then replay that with all the new updates, because I sold my copy of Final Fantasy 15 after I beat it in anticipation for the Game of the Year edition. But when the Game of the Year edition titled Final Fantasy 15 Royal came out, I was like, wait a second, they're announcing another season of DLC? I guess I'll wait for Final Fantasy 15 Ultra Mega Royal edition to have both seasons of DLC on the disc, so I don't have to buy the new DLC over and over and over again. Like, I'm tired of beta testing these Square Enix games, okay? Fast forward into the future, I'm now a PC gamer and I don't really play on my PS4 anymore, and then I discover Xbox Games Pass and Final Fantasy 15 being on the Xbox Games Pass with all the DLC. I play through all the DLC first, then I read about the Dawn of the Future, and then I replayed the base game. So right now you're wondering why I'm telling you this. I'm telling you this because I went through two distinct periods of time where I was really bummed out that they didn't make the Dawn of the Future DLC, and then I was actually really happy that they didn't make the Dawn of the Future DLC. Alright, level with me here. When I first finished episode Arden, I was like, this is actually pretty fun. This is a fun gameplay experience. The lore seems to be kind of being built up, and I read the Dawn of the Future and I didn't think it was that bad at the time. I was like, you know what, this would have been cool. Like the diamond fight with Arnea, controlling Arnea, they were hyping it up in episode Prompto, maybe play as Noctis, finally get that happy ending we've all been waiting for. But upon finishing the original Final Fantasy 15, I kind of hate the Dawn of the Future now, because at the time it felt great. It was like, oh man, we're finally getting our happy ending. But upon finishing Final Fantasy 15, the weight of Noctis's journey, the meaning behind the story, all the stuff around it kind of feels flat if you think about the Dawn of the Future. In the original ending for Final Fantasy 15, Noctis gives up so much. Everyone around him gives up so much. Their character developments are kind of put forward because they want to help create a better future. Noctis didn't ask to become king, and yet he rises to the occasion, which is why I think so many people, despite the weird jankiness of Final Fantasy 15, is why they enjoy the game so much, because this character motivation is something people can kind of empathize with. He's put in a situation he never asked for, but he rises to the occasion. He, doesn't ask for a lighter burden. He just gets broader shoulders, and it's definitely a great story where he accepts his responsibilities and really rises to the occasion. Everyone around him also grows with him. Gladiolus, Prompto, Ignis, Luna dies for the cause, but it's made so cheap by the Dawn of the Future. The Dawn of the Future definitely cheapens her death by just bringing her back to life, and Bahamut's like, yeah, I brought you back to life. Can you redo my plan or something? So the Dawn of the Future ruins the character development kind of indirectly by creating a new ending, but that was to be expected. But the problem I have is that if we know this information, like say the Dawn of the Future is canon and this is how Bahamut planned on doing things, well then what was the point of Noctis' sacrifice at the end of the main game? Because Bahamut was just planning for all this to happen. If Bahamut was evil and he just wanted Noctis, Somnus, and Arden to suffer, well then, what was the point of putting on the mantle? What was the point of getting broader shoulders to shoulder this burden? This burden is all just a joke to Bahamut. Like, their sacrifice is made so cheap by the fact that we know Bahamut is a son of a bitch who's been playing everyone like a fool. It also opens up a bunch of plot holes with the original lore and makes Somnus out to be this tragic guy when clearly he wasn't in the original media. And then it doesn't make sense because Ignis puts on the ring but then doesn't lose anything in the new alternate ending. In the new alternate ending, he puts on the ring and fights, but the ring doesn't really demand anything from him. He kind of just gets healed by like a mega potion and then he's like all good after that. I don't think he even goes blind. Like, all their sacrifices are made null, which is the first problem. And then the second problem is because we know they've been sacrificing stuff in the original game to kind of appease Bahamut's plan, but in this ending we find out Bahamut's evil, so what was the point of the sacrifices they made? Like, all the weight of their sacrifices are made like non-existent because you know that they're all just pointless. It's all just pointless. The plans from the two canons, the two endings, just don't make sense, because in the original ending they had the whole prophecy stuff where the chosen king would save Eos from darkness, which happens, but in the other ending you find out that Bahamut's plan was to have the prophecy destroy the world. So what was the point of the main game if the whole world's going to be destroyed because Noctis played right into Bahamut's air quotes plan? So the good ending is the Dawn of the Future ending, and I'm guessing the bad ending is the main ending where Noctis sacrifices everything only to have Bahamut then destroy the world later. Like, I don't understand how the prophecy from the main game and the prophecy from Dawn of the Future kind of come together. Like, it's just a huge plot hole that's not explained. Also, I feel like the imagery and the symbolism kind of clash in the Dawn of the Future ending because it's revealed that Bahamut looks just like Noctis, and Noctis comments on how maybe Bahamut chose Somnus because Somnus looked just like him. So Bahamut is essentially God, and then Noctis is Jesus, and this is all Christ symbolism, which kind of makes sense in the original game. But in Dawn of the Future, if Bahamut is God and, Noctis is Jesus, then why is Bahamut evil? Like, even the symbolism doesn't make any sense, man. An unfinished main game and an unfinished DLC package. Like, Final Fantasy 15 seems to have gone the worst of both worlds here. And you know what? Now that I have had some time to think about it, I think the DLC, like Episode Gladiolus, Episode Prompto, it was fine, but I honestly would have preferred more dev time on the base game. Like, maybe give us some more side quests within the open world, because the open world is massive and so empty. Maybe give us some more reasons to kind of flesh out what's going on in Tenebra. Like, let us see more than just the train station. Like, there's so much they could have done with the main game. And I think the episodes were kind of, I don't want to say a waste of development time, because they were important and they did, they were kind of fun. But I feel like upgrading the base game would have been so much better instead of introducing all these new plot holes. Like in Episode Prompto, when the guy's like, I'm going to gain power to rival that of the gods. And I'm like, this is a pretty cool boss fight, only to realize it's just one giant on-rails turret section, which was okay. But if you think about it lore-wise, like, why would you turn yourself into a giant machine, like, worm monster thing if you're going to lose to just one guy on a snowmobile with a machine gun? In fact, Prompto's dad would have had a better time killing Prompto if he just stayed in his regular human form instead of turning into a giant worm who just dies to an LMG. Anyways, my final thoughts on Final Fantasy 15 are that of like too many cooks in the kitchen, except for this time it's too many directors in Square Enix, when in fact it's really just one director who's picking up too many jobs, and I'm talking about Nomura. So the original game had Nomura's vision, and then we had Tabata's vision. So the base game, the ending linear part, I would say that's Nomura, because Tabata really only had time within the 2 years of actual dev time that they have to kind of build up the original kind of open world stuff, which is why it's so empty. And then the ending is Nomura. Tabata's like, let's use the DLC to kind of do my ending, which is much happier. And if we didn't know about the Nomura stuff, this Dawn of the Future, this Tabata ending would have been accepted so much more readily because it has nothing else to fight against. The themes are just so polarizing from the two endings. Not just the themes, but the story just doesn't make sense. If you count it as like an alternate ending instead of an alternate universe, the Dawn of the Future just takes a massive dump on Noctis and Luna and everyone's sacrifice because they're just playing right into Bahamut's hands. Like, what was the point of all of that if they're just going to destroy Eos anyway? But no matter what, I'm not one of the people who say, oh, it's good that we don't get this DLC because it was going to be trash anyway. It kind of shits on the story. I'm in the camp that's like, it would have been awesome if we were still able to play it. You know what? Sure, it may not have been the ending we would have liked story-wise, but it would have definitely been awesome if we were able to play Aranea and fight the Diamond Weapon, if we were able to play Noctis and fight Arden again, I guess, or maybe we could play as Luna and fight Ifrit again, but it would have been fine. It would have been fine because we've been able to play it. Anyways, if you want to read it for yourself, I'll put a link in the description to a fan translation. They've only recently finished translating episode Aranea. They have also finished translating episode Arden. Mad props to these people. Expect episode Luna Freya soon, I hope. Anyways, that's all I have to say. If you liked, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.